If you're having trouble making ends meet right now, you're really not alone. Nearly 52 million adults, about 1 in 4, are having difficulty paying for usual household expenses, the most recent census data shows. And it's more than 4 in 10 Americans, 42%, say they are struggling to remain where they are financially. So let's split the difference between those two numbers. We'll be generous here and we'll say 1 in 3. 1 in 3 American adults say they've found it difficult to cover expenses or pay bills. 1 out of every 3. Does that sound like a system that is working well? Does that sound like a machine that is just humming along beautifully? Does that sound like citizens are living the American dream, living la vida loca? Does that sound like they're living the good life and riding high on the hog? I mean, I bet most of them don't even have a hog, okay? So how can they even have a chance to ride high on the hog if they don't have a fucking hog? Step 1, get these people a hog. Step 2, teach them to ride it. Step 3, teach them to ride high on it, which is not easy because if you're high, your balance is not good. Point being, this system is clearly not working for everyone. And this is happening while rich-ass Congress people do next to nothing to help Americans. During the pandemic, they funneled trillions to Wall Street. They're doing fine. They're not feeling your pain. God forbid Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell or any of the titans of Wall Street have to go 30 seconds without their personalized ass lickers making sure everything's nice and moist down there. They're not struggling. They're not worried. 1 out of every 3. 1 out of every 3 of us are screwed by this system. And imagine just for a second, just for a moment, imagine if we all united. Imagine if the entirety of the 33% of American adults, along with anyone else who agrees, so let's say 45, 50% of American society, imagine if we all put our differences aside and fought back together. I get it. I know we don't get along, okay? Half of us spend our weekend fighting with our lawnmowers and the other half of us aren't quite sure what a lawnmower is. Half of us think Clifford Blake is the worst country music singer to ever live, completely invented a fabricated ideal of the stereotypical American experience in order to appeal to idiot suburban Southerners who long for a time gone by. And the other half of us know from the bottom of our hearts that Clifford Blake is not a real person. I made him up. And if you thought he was a real person, then I rest my case. Point is, we are very different. But if the third of American adults got together and said in a noble yet firm tone, fuck this shit, then the amount of change created would be incredible. No movement in recent history has had anywhere near a third of the country. All it would take would be to put our differences aside, no matter how much they try to divide us. The sign-up sheet for the club would just have 2 questions on it. Number 1, have you had difficulty paying bills or buying supplies in the past month? If yes, you're in the club. Number 2, if the answer is no, do you want to help those who have had trouble paying bills in the past month? If the answer is yes, you're in the club. Done. That's it. If the answer is no, then fuck you. You're not in the club. Go back to picking lint out of your hole. Or if you're a woman, go back to whatever you ladies were doing. Okay. So now we have the club of about 90 or 100 million Americans. Then we start figuring out a few demands, and we don't shut up and go home until they're met. That's it. Nobody even starts talking about all the things that divide us. If you hear someone say, "What religion are you? Are you the right religion?" Then you just give them a wet willy or something. Just stick your spit-covered finger deep in their ear. They'll get the picture. No one is allowed to ask all of those questions. What party are you? What sexual orientation are you? Who's your favorite football team? Do you care about the environment? Are you circumcised? Do you like drugs? Did you study hard in college? Did you study hard drugs in college? Do you have any kids? If no, do you have any kids you don't know about? Do you have a sexual fetish for people dressed up like stormtroopers but without pants on? No! No questions asked that allow everyone to be divided and to start hating each other. 100 million Americans, 1 out of every 3 struggling adults and their allies standing at Congress's door saying, you've gotten away with exploiting us for too long, okay? Enriching yourself while everyone else suffers for too long, sucking out the bulk of our productive years while grabbing all the wealth for yourselves for too long, lying to us for too long, manipulating us for too long. We can decide whether to get that angry with it later. We'll workshop all this stuff. I'm just saying, you get the point. Like, for example, we'll have to figure out what the demands will be. I don't know what they'll be right now, but things like universal basic income, Medicare for all, a bailout of the people rather than the businesses, whatever we decide, 1 out of every 3 adults, undivided, undeterred, undaunted, unwavering, and some of us dressed as stormtroopers without pants on. It would be unstoppable. That's it for now, but please leave a comment. Am I right? Could this work? Could people actually unite and change things? What do you think? Also, join our free email list by texting the word censored to 33777 and keep fighting.